worked with so many great directors. I won't bother going through the whole list because it's really impressive.
No, I've worked with a few wonderful people. Yeah.
But George Clooney, and also being an actor and being in scenes with you and as a director, I mean, how did you feel about working with him?
I think he's a wonderful director, but I've also liked his other movies very, very much. And he's like some other actors, because good actors don't always make good directors. It does happen, and certainly in George's case, it has happened. But it's not necessarily the case, actually. But I do think George is innately very smart. I think the very first movie he made was beautifully made. From the beginning, he really had a handle on how to be a director. He has a very strong directorial touch. So whether you like what he's doing or not at that moment, you are absolutely secure knowing that this is something that didn't happen by mistake. He really knows what he's doing. And I think being an actor for George was tremendously helpful and has greatly added to his directing expertise, because it's really interesting, but a lot of fantastic and wonderful directors are not actors. But if you are an actor and you're an intelligent director, you have a leg up in some ways on other directors, because if you're smart and good, you can be a wonderful actor and a terrible director. But if you're smart, you've had the advantage of watching 40 or 50 other directors directing movies. It's incredibly informative if your mind is open, if you want to do that. You can tell in a second that George is unbelievably conversant with every way that there can be to be on a film set. How to be fast, how to be slow when you're supposed to be slow, how to talk to actors, how to not talk to actors. He's made great use of his many years of training as an actor, because being an actor is like being a director in training if you have the bent. And I think he has it really, wonderfully. And I think that is part of it is his actor's life. I love how he doesn't like to waste time. I love how he can get to the point quickly. And I love how he can be in control of everything without ever making you feel like you're being shoved into. I've worked with directors who are like, walk here, stand here, now say this, now go there. It's like, well, why do you have us? Just like do it yourself, you don't need anybody. And yet, it's also very good to have somebody who can say, I did some, infinite amounts of help that he gave us in the simplest, fastest of ways. There was something I was doing at the end of something at some point, and he said, oh, by the way, I think when you say that line, it would be great if you turned away and were walking away, and during that line. It's like, that is, I knew instantly why it wasn't getting a laugh at the end of the thing, and I turned and walked away, and I thought, oh, now it's funny. He didn't have to tell me anything more than that.
You were cast out of a chance meeting at a party for Argo. Is that true?
Yes, it's completely true. Well, my story, I actually thought that that's the reason I got cast in the movie, is I happened to be seeing, we'd known each other very, very faintly from 1,000 parties, right? Academy Award parties that we go to once or twice. I've been nominated for things and run into him at the dinner. And for somebody I didn't really know at all, I always looked forward to seeing him. And it's like, in the middle of everything else, he is always able to stop and pay attention and be a human being. He's really good at that, because he is. So when I went to the party for Argo for the premiere, and then went to the exclusive after party thing, and I spoke to Grant Heslov for a little bit, because I do know Grant a little bit, and Grant's friends with my cousins and all sorts of things. And I did probably wave at George or whatever. The next morning, I get a call from my friend Peggy Siegel, the publicist, who said, is it okay if I give Grant and George your phone number? It's like, could I ask you please to give it to them? They don't have to ask. And then 2 seconds later, Grant called and said, you want to be in the movie? We'll send it to you, but what's your instinct? I said, I don't have to read it. Yes, I'd love to be in the movie. And then I read it, and even triply loved, being in the movie.
Does that happen often, that you'll say yes to something based on the people involved before you read it? Or?
I would always read it before I really said yes. Because just, why not? But when it's somebody you want to work with on a topic that you'd like, and they're wonderful and the other actors are wonderful, I kind of would have made up my mind at that point, And I knew, it was going to be a really interesting movie. It could have gone many different ways, and I think it did turn out very nicely. But whatever happened, usually I, like Wes when I get a call from somebody like Wes Anderson, it's like, yes, I'm sure, count me in, and then I'm like, oh, please let there be like a little part there, you know, please don't just let it be. But then Wes asked me to be in a cameo. I mean, he didn't pretend that it was a part. He was like, it's a cameo. You want to come for a week and be in it? Yes.
This was Moonrise Kingdom or Budapest?
Budapest, Grand Budapest Hotel.
Let me ask you about this great comedic dynamic duo in the film of you and Bill Murray. Did you know Bill previously to making the film?
Well, I'd done Moonrise Kingdom,
of course,
sort of with him. I mean, we hung out around in the dressing area. We didn't have dressing rooms exactly, but we had hung out a little bit together, and we appeared in one brief scene together with Bruce Willis and me and Bill. And I had vaguely known him from Saturday Night Live days. Al Franken's a friend of mine, Senator Franken. And so I, every once in a while used to go around, and I vaguely knew Bill. All I knew is, until we did this movie, all I really knew was, he's one of my favorite actors. I really enjoy him as a human being, but I didn't know him really well enough to know that. But I always knew he was really special, and I thought, this will be interesting. I'll get to know him more. I'll either grow to hate him or love him or whatever. And in the course of the movie, because we were locked away in Germany for 5 months, you do tend to get to know the people you're working with, especially if you sort of like them anyway. And I have to say, the more I got to know Bill, the more I enjoyed him, actually. I loved working with him in a sustained way. He's an unusual person in the best sense of the word. He's great, and I'm really fond of him.
When I spoke to Bruce Willis about Moonrise Kingdom, actually at the Independent Spirit Awards last year, he mentioned to me that Bill is actually funnier off the set than he even is on the set. I know you weren't doing funny stuff in this movie, but
Bill is as funny as he needs to be. He is not obsessively funny, and he's quite serious by nature. And like all good actors, but I suppose if you're a movie star, you do tend to get known for one thing that you do. But Bill is not known for one thing that he does. If I were ever lucky enough to direct the play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I would cast Bill as George. He would be an insanely wonderful George. He's a totally well-rounded actor who can be in anything.
Since you mentioned it, let me just ask about Grand Budapest Hotel. You have just a minor role in that?
I would say I don't have a minor role. I would say I appear briefly. My face is in the movie, basically.
What was it like reuniting with Wes, and now, after 2 films, being part of the Wes Anderson ensemble?
Well, the dream is, the dream is to be part of an ensemble, which I have been lucky enough to do with Christopher Guest in 5 of them, I guess, 4 or 5, something. It's so much fun. It's fun to know the other people. It's fun, how Wes works, how Christopher works. It's so much fun to show up on a job and not have to play catch up all the time. It's really relaxing, confidence inspiring, and it's also nice to know that whatever Christopher or Wes, or I'm sure there would be other directors that I would feel the same way about, but certainly in that case, really truly, you just don't have to bother to read it or think about it. It's just, okay, please give me the date right now, and let's make sure I don't do anything else, whatever happens, because they're both unique, wonderful people, and you can't have that many great experiences. So
Well, and perhaps the same with George and Grant.
Oh,
they work with
God!
Matt, they work with a lot of people over and over again. Maybe.
Well, if they ever need another one of whatever I am, please.
Well, it's great talking to you.
Thank you.
Big fan for many years,
Well,
and always enjoy.
Thank you.
Getting to chat with you.
You're very nice. Thank you.